Shalom Havarim and hello friends. It is good to see you on this, what is it? Wednesday? Who knows what day it is? Actually, I do know. It is Monday, July 5th as I'm recording. And I think this is the first time I've ever recorded a sermon on Monday morning. That's because this is a re-recording of yesterday's sermon, which somebody failed to, plug in the sound adapter. So I have a nice video of yesterday's service, just no sound. So we are re-recording the sermon from July the 4th. Now I started yesterday with this interesting question. I know that some people struggled with this, and I'll present it here for you as well. Do you know the difference between George Washington and a duck? Well, one of them has a bill on their face, and the other one has their face on a bill. I had a number of other ones as well, but I'm going to just leave it there. Yesterday was Independence Day, and we Mennonites, we have a strange relationship with national holidays. And I just want to start by saying I am very glad to be an American. I'm very proud of my country. So don't hear me saying anything else today. But I also want to say today, if you really have pride, if you really are thankful for something, let us first and foremost put our pride in the fact that we are members of the kingdom of God, that we are a part of this peculiar people, this chosen people, a royal priesthood, Peter calls us. We are a part of the church. And today I want to talk a little bit about pride. I want to talk about critique. And we're going to look at how we can balance these things in a healthy relationship. Now, since we were doing this sermon originally on July 4th, it only makes sense to start with some lessons from Germany. Absolutely. So as some people know, this summer I have been taking German classes. I did it last summer as well. So I'm taking German classes because, I'm that much of a nerd, and who doesn't want to take German? And what else would you want to do in the summer, right? And it's not like I'm going to go to the beach or anything like that. But anyways, I'm taking German, and we're learning about different concepts in the German community. For instance, we've learned a couple of German terms. I've learned a lot of German terms, but the two that I want to focus on this morning are Heimat and National Stolz. Heimat is roughly translated as home place. Now, it's more than just the place where you live, and it's more than just the place where you grew up. One's Heimat is the things that made that person who they are, that formed them into the person that you see today. Now, I have lived in Virginia for 16 years at this point of my life, and that's well over half my life. No, I've lived in Virginia for 16 years, but still in my mind, Ohio is home. Ohio is what formed me to be the person I am. And it's more than just the house that I grew up in. It's all the memories that formed my childhood and my experience growing up. It's the smell of the grain drying in the grain bins in the fall of the year, each year. It's the smell of mom's cooking each morning when I woke up. It's the satisfaction of knowing that you've completed a long, hard day, unloading hay and stacking it in the mow, and sitting down at the table with my brothers and my father and enjoying a nice cold can of pop. And yes, in Ohio we called it pop, and I've since converted, but memories of growing up and spending time with friends and family, this is my Heimat. Now, National Stolz, you can hear the word national there. And Stolz means pride. So you can see why this might be a bit of a challenge for the German-speaking world. Because we are just, 80 years removed from one of the largest atrocities known to humanity. Now, Germans have a lot of things to be proud of. They have beautiful country. They have the Alps are right there in their backyard. They have beautiful rivers flowing through their country. They have some of the world's best chocolate, and there's a lot of pride in their soccer team. even though they did recently lose to England. Germans have a lot of reason to be proud, but they also have this thing looming in their background, in their near background. So for someone that has grown up in post-World War II, post-Holocaust Germany, having national stolz can be a bit of a challenge. Now, it was really interesting to have a conversation with a friend who lived in Germany for a period of time after church yesterday. And he just noted how Germany wrestles with this challenge. They have this history, and they don't try to hide it. Like, you can still tour some of these concentration camps in Germany. And the people speak openly and freely about the mistakes of their forefathers. They're not proud that the Holocaust occurred, but they're not trying to hide it either. And I think there's something really important there that we can learn from, because they don't want to repeat the mistakes of their forefathers. They don't want to make the same bad decisions that those who came before them have made. This isn't about feeling guilty. It's not about placing blame. It's about not making the same bad mistakes. Now, we Mennonites, we have a deal with pride, I know. And part of that's because of how we translate certain words in the Bible. One of my jokes is that, we Mennonites are awful proud of our humility. It's this weird relationship, but pride is an issue. And if we read in the Bible, there's a number of places, especially in the Proverbs, that speak of pride. And one of the ones that often comes to our mind is this passage that says, pride comes before the fall. And it's not talking about the autumn where the leaves fall. It's not talking about the fall of humanity. It's talking about your fall. You have too much pride and you will be humbled. You will be knocked off your pedestal. The King James Version puts it even more strongly. King James writes, pride goeth before destruction. Now, when I think about my life, I feel like I've got a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of where I live. Just an interesting story. 2 weeks ago, my in-laws, they live in Waynesboro, which is 20 minutes away from where we live. And my father-in-law pastors a church in that community. And on Sunday morning, as my mother-in-law was walking through the church, she recognized a young couple sitting there in the congregation. It was actually my wife's second cousin and his wife. We haven't seen them for a decade or so, but they just show up on a Sunday morning at their church. And it turns out that they were vacationing in the area. They were actually in a bed and breakfast in Stanton, Virginia. And they didn't think about us living in the area when they decided to visit Stanton, Virginia. They went through a list of things they wanted to see. They wanted to see some historical sites. They wanted to see some beautiful architecture. They wanted to go hiking, and they wanted to have some wonderful food. And Stanton, Virginia just checked off all the boxes for them. Check, check, check. So they didn't come because they were expecting to see someone they knew. They were coming because of the beauty of this area. They were coming because of the history of this area and the opportunities that are available. And when I think about this, and I realize that they were staying just about a mile away from where I live, I was filled with a sense of pride because people vacation where we live. That's how beautiful this area is. People vacation here. And I have a lot of things to be proud of, not just the beauty of this area, the things that we enjoy as a part of this nation. I am very proud of those things in a humble way. But yet then we also have plenty to be embarrassed of. We have issues like ongoing challenges with gun violence, and we can't agree on how to deal with gun violence. We have historical issues like the way we have treated the Native Americans in this country. We have issues with how we have treated people of African descent in this country. Pretty much any minority group has been mistreated. And I even asked a question yesterday, and a friend who grew up in England confirmed. Like, one of the things that I'm embarrassed of right now is just how our politicians interact and how politics continue to be at loggerheads. And my friend's like, yep, that's the way we see Americans. I'm embarrassed of these things. So here we have this poll. There's things to be proud of. And there's things to note that we could do better. Now, the kind of pride that I think is okay is when you take pride in the work that you do. You know, maybe you're a woodworker or something of that nature, or maybe you build a house or you remodel a car. I think it's okay to say, look, I did this work and it turned out pretty well. What do you think? That kind of pride's okay. It's okay to have pride in your family. I mean, who among us doesn't take their smartphones around and show pictures of their children or grandchildren or niece or nephew? It's okay to have that kind of pride. The kind of pride that I think becomes an issue is when we have so much pride in something that it blinds us to our own shortcomings. Now, let me use an example from my own personal life. Have you ever met someone who isn't good at receiving constructive criticism? Well, if you've met me, you have. You have met someone who's not good at receiving constructive criticism, because I'm not good at receiving constructive criticism. I've gotten a lot better over the years, but I'm still not where I need to be. I remember very clearly when I was in my early 20s, I did an internship. And I'm so old that back in the days when I was doing internships, people filled out paper evaluations. They didn't do it online, paper evaluations. Kids, look it up, it was a thing. And one day I was in the office and my supervisor was not even on site that day. And I noticed that he had sitting on his desk my evaluation. And I casually glanced at this evaluation as I passed by. And by casually, I mean I probably sat there and stared at it, but I essentially read the thing from top to bottom. I'm not proud of that, but I did. So I'm reading this through and I'm seeing all the check marks, and excels here and does well here and superb in this area. And I did really well on my evaluation until I got to the very last thing, and he checked needs improvement. And I looked close at that and I was like, what did he say I need improvement on? And the category said, accepts constructive criticism. I was so mad because my supervisor said I don't accept constructive criticism well. And I remember going about the rest of my day as I'm working and thinking, how dare he say I don't accept constructive criticism well? Who does he think he is? And the irony of it all is it took me several hours until I realized that he was right. The fact that I was mad at him showed that he was right. I don't accept constructive criticism well. Nobody likes to be criticized, but sometimes it's done better than others. He wasn't trying to pick at me or anything like that. He was noting that I don't respond well when someone shows me how to do something better, or somebody says that I didn't do something well enough. And I remember, even as I've started ministry, 15 years ago, when people would come up to me after church, and I've put all this time and effort into a sermon, and I've preached it, and then somebody comes up to me and says, I disagree with you here. I remember being so upset about that because, how dare you? How dare you call me out? How dare you question my authority? I'm a man of the cloth. I'm a seminary-trained pastor. Who do you think you are? And it wasn't until several years later I realized, Kevin, that's a terrible attitude to have. Because I've learned that I can learn from everybody. I can learn from anybody in this congregation, anybody out there. There's something that that I need to know or should know. You know better than I do. And if I want to grow, if I want to do better as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a Christian, that information is helpful to me. And if I'm preaching on a Sunday morning and I say something wrong, I'm responsible for passing on wrong information to the people of this congregation. So I've come to the point where I want to know. If you disagree with me, if I'm overlooking something, if I'm flat out wrong, I want people to tell me. Please do so in an appropriate way. but I'm not above criticism. I maybe don't always like it, but I need that. If I have too much pride, it closes me off to that criticism. It blinds me to my own shortcomings. Now, here's where I want to make it a little more applicable to our nation. Have you ever met those certain people who are so proud of their nation, whether it's the United States or some other country, that they can't even hear criticism of their country? Now, usually what I come across is not people who are so proud of their country that they can't hear criticism. It's usually they're so proud of their individual political party that they can't hear criticism, or a certain figure, a political figure. Usually they're very quick to critique the other side, but if you critique their guy or their side, then they aren't hearing it. Well, see, I think there's a problem there. Because when we put anyone or anything, any person above critique, we have made them into an idol. Now, when we critique things about a country, again, remember, I'm not trying to make someone feel guilty. I'm not trying to rehash things that happened way back in the past just to make you feel bad about them. It is always about trying to make progress. It is always trying to remember the failures of our forefathers or even the failures of our current leaders so that we can do better, so that we can live more Christ-like lives, so we can manifest the kingdom of God here. And here's the thing, I think that if you really love someone, or if you really love something, you will speak out if they're doing something unchristlike, because you want to see them grow and develop as well. You see, in the church, we have this thing called mutual accountability. I give you feedback, you give me feedback. And again, it's not about tearing someone down. It's not about trying to make them feel guilty. It's about trying to grow in our likeness to Christ. Now, in 2 Peter, Peter calls us, the church, a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. We are called to be a kind of people who don't look like the rest of the world. We are called to be a peculiar people, a weird-looking people. And that covers a large number of areas, I believe. But I think one of the places we are to be peculiar is in our ability to give and receive counsel, to hold one another accountable, to not lift individuals or nations or states or theories or represent, I don't even know what else. Don't lift anything up above criticism, because that does become an idol. So I come back to this concept that I learned in my German class, these concepts of Heimat and National Stolz. Heimat is what made me me. Heimat is what made you you. I was formed as a person, as a Christian, as a father and husband by the wonderful people in Ohio. You've been formed by the people around you and experiences that you've had in this nation as well. And that's something to take pride in. And it's okay to have pride in where you come from. It's okay to have pride in the wonderful gifts that we've been given here. We do have beautiful land. And the thing is, I have nothing to do with that. To God be the glory. I haven't built a single mountain, at least not yet. I'm still working on it. So if you're going to have pride in what God has done. If you're going to have pride that we are a part of God's chosen people. Yes, pride can be okay. It's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as it doesn't blind us to our shortcomings, it's okay to have pride in these things. But above all else, may we put our pride, our hope, our trust, and our thanks in the giver of all things that are good. All right, my friends, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.